Good morning, everyone. A winter storm is headed our way, and North Carolina is getting ready for it. The current forecast calls for a significant winter storm likely to impact much of our state. This storm comes at a time of year when North Carolinians are usually hearing Christmas carols about snow, not actually seeing it. But this time, the real thing is headed our way. A winter storm is not a Christmas carol snow. It's serious. I urge you to keep a close eye on the forecast because this storm will have various impacts on different parts of our state. So take steps now to get your family ready. To get North Carolina ready for the storm, I've activated the National Guard to help as needed, and I will be declaring a statewide state of emergency a little bit later today. Depending on where you live and how the storm tracks, you can see rain, snow, sleet, freezing rain, or a mixture of these, along with cold temperatures and gusty winds. People in our mountains and foothills can expect the most snow, more than a foot in some areas. I've seen some predictions up to 18 inches. That's a lot of snow, even for places that are accustomed to winter storms. The Triad can expect as much as a foot of snow and sleet. Charlotte can expect significant snow and sleet as well. In the Triangle area, current forecast shows 2 to 6 inches with higher amount toward Durham and less snow toward Raleigh. Areas east and south of Raleigh may see less than an inch of snow. But eastern North Carolina isn't in the clear for this storm. This storm could bring heavy rain, coastal flooding, gusty winds, and beach erosion at the coast. Forecasts often change, so stay tuned. Safe travel is the biggest kind of concern you have with this storm. We expect roads and travel to be treacherous, especially along and north and west of I-85 and its corridor. The combination of wet snow and ice and wind could also lead to scattered power outages. Already, utility companies are bringing in extra crews into the state to help restore power if and when needed. Forecasters tell us that temperatures behind this storm will stay cold, which means snow and ice might not melt that quickly. My advice is to keep your family safe through the storm. Make sure that you gather your emergency supplies, follow weather forecasts closely, and be prepared to stay put for a few days when the storm rolls in and the roads become slick. Unnecessary travel not only puts you at risk, but it also puts our emergency responders, and our law enforcement officers at risk. The more cars we have on the road, the tougher it will be for our Department of Transportation crews to treat and clear those roadways. If you absolutely must travel, clear your car of snow and ice before you drive, slow down, and leave room between you and other vehicles. You also want to have an emergency kit in your vehicle, including an ice scraper, jumper cables, tow chain, sander salt, blankets, a flashlight, a first aid kit, and a road map. To get ready at home, now is the time to update your emergency supplies, including fresh batteries for your weather radio and flashlights. And if you lose power and use an alternative heat source, make sure you know how to use it safely. Operate generators and grills outside only and away from open windows or doors to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. And of course, make sure you make preparations for your pets. For good tips on things you should do, visit readync.org and check drivenc.gov for the latest road conditions. Here at the State Emergency Operations Center, we are doing our part to get ready for the storm. Our state emergency managers are in close contact with local officials and have been coordinating with counties for several days. We will activate the State Emergency Operations Center tomorrow, which is Saturday. Key state emergency response team partners, the Department of Transportation, the Highway Patrol, the National Guard, Emergency Management, utilities, and others will be here coordinating with us, getting ready for the storm. The Highway Patrol is coordinating with local law enforcement and other emergency responders on plans to check and mark abandoned vehicles on the road to ensure that no one is left stranded and in the cold. Our state troopers are prepared to shift resources to cover potential trouble spots given the forecast, but it looks like it's going to be a wide range of snow here, so we're going to have a lot of them out there making sure that our roads are safe. Here with me today is North Carolina's team leading the effort to prepare for this storm. Our Public Safety Secretary, Eric Hooks, Transportation Secretary, Jim Trogdon, Emergency Management Director, Mike Sprayberry, North Carolina National Guard General Todd Hunt, North Carolina Highway Patrol Colonel Commander Glenn McNeil. And we also have, to my left here, Lee Williamson, who is our American Sign Language interpreter. All of these will be available to answer questions. We will also have updates tomorrow and likely Sunday, so you can ask questions of them. But first, I'd like to ask Secretary Jim Trogdon if he come to tell us about the Department of Transportation's preparations for this storm.
Thank you, Governor. Jim Trogdon, DOT. Yesterday, the North Carolina Department of Transportation started our anti-icing operations in 57 counties in central and western North Carolina. We're started in additional 5 counties from Guilford north to the Virginia line in the Triad area today. As of 7 a.m., we had 276 trucks and 846 employees placed 205,000 gallons of salt brine for our anti-icing. An additional 80 trucks and 130 employees were also already conducting plowing operations and placed 1,750 tons of salt in the western mountains and higher elevations from snow that occurred earlier in the week. We have at the ready 3,000 employees and 2,400 trucks ready to respond to this storm with plows and spreaders, and we have 135,000 tons of salt on hand ready to respond. I would reinforce the governor's recommendation during and after this event. Please visit drivenc.gov before you travel, because the conditions at your destination may be quite different than where you're starting your trip from. So if you're traveling any distance whatsoever, please visit drivenc.gov for the current road conditions. Thank you.
Okay, questions for me or any of the people I have here on stage? Yes, sir. Let them give you the mic there. Yes.
Governor, there are still parts of eastern North Carolina dealing with the hurricanes we had this fall. Is there any special attention to those parts of North Carolina?
We are having our emergency operations people working closely with local governments in eastern North Carolina, because there is a potential for flooding when we have this kind of precipitation. If they don't get any snow and ice, they're pretty sure going to get some rain, so there may be some flooding issues. One of the things that I'm concerned about is that a lot of these eastern North Carolina counties, kids have missed a lot of school during the hurricane. Many schools had to be repaired. I went to one yesterday in Jacksonville I'd been to 43 days ago, right after Hurricane Florence, and it was in bad shape. They've now gotten their kids back in. They really can't afford more snow and ice days or even flooding days. So we're hoping that the weather will not be as bad in eastern North Carolina and that we can avoid missing school. But our emergency management teams are geared up and ready to go for all kinds of weather. This is not just a winter snow and ice event. This also can be a heavy rain, freezing rain, potential flood, coastal storm event as well.
Good morning, Governor. What are the expected costs of the snow preparations and the cleanup?
Well, we don't know what those are going to be right now. There's money in the budget to make sure we cover and have ready all the Department of Transportation vehicles that we need to provide the treatment to the roads that are necessary. I've activated, or am going to activate, about 150 National Guard troops. One of the things that we keep in mind as we are ready for a storm, we understand that all upping of level of preparation does cost taxpayer money. And we're very careful about ratcheting up preparations and are careful about how we do that. The thing we want to be careful about here is that, particularly in the last couple of years, we've had storms that have surprised weather forecasters, that they have ended up being more intense than we thought. So it's better to be more prepared and not need it than to be underprepared and facing the calamity of a storm. We can get you some specific budget figures if you'd like. There are a lot of components of this. You have the Department of Transportation and the equipment that they need and the personnel that they need to activate. These guys are there round the clock. We also have our State Highway Patrol. There's local law enforcement costs, our emergency management. We've got the people here working in the operations center. But it's important that they're ready to go, and we hope that this won't be the kind of storm where there will be a lot of cleanup costs, but we will be ready for that in the event that happens.
How rare do you think it is to get a storm this early in the season?
Yeah, it's pretty rare, and particularly a storm of this magnitude. This is the kind of storm that you usually think about after the first of the year. But here we are December 7th, and we're talking about more than a foot of snow in many parts of our state. That's unusual and significant, but we have to be ready for it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we'll work today, and we'll see you guys sometime tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Good Friday morning, everybody. I'm Jared Smith with the Carolina Weather Group, coming to you from Charleston, South Carolina, talking about this winter storm. Winter storm potential is increasing for western and central North Carolina, maybe into the Midlands and the upstate of South Carolina. Certainly something to watch. Let's go to the water vapor satellite, show you kind of what's going on here. So we've got a pretty good looking upper low coming ashore in Southern California. This guy is going to head eastward over the next couple days and help enhance winter weather potential, especially in western North Carolina, mountains, foothills into the Piedmont there. Here's what we know. High impact winter weather event, very likely. A lot of questions, more questions than answers at this point as far as how far south we see this. Still significant uncertainty in how much snow is going to fall, what the precipitation types are going to be like in any one location. Those precipitation types are going to have direct impacts on how much snow falls. We could see a good mix of sleet and freezing rain. We've had a lot of mixed signals on that. We'll talk about that in a second. But what we do have right now is a winter storm watch, and this winter storm watch stretches roughly just west of Raleigh through Greensboro, Charlotte, Asheville, pretty much all the way to the mountains in North Carolina. No watch right now for South Carolina. No watches this far south. We'll see if that gets brought into an advisory a little later on in the weekend. Again, it all depends on a few things. One, the warm nose. What is the warm nose? It's a little bit of warm air aloft. You have cooler air at the surface and you have warm air setting up aloft. And the depth of that warm nose and the strength of that warm nose will influence a lot of things, whether we get sleet, snow, freezing rain in any particular location. So that is a big question mark right now. How much of that mixes in? We'll have significant impacts on snow totals. We've been seeing a lot of uncertainty with snow totals with this forecast so far. It's been kind of back and forth. And so we are actually going to hold back this morning from showing you an updated snow map. We published one yesterday. We're going to stick to that one for the moment. We want to see some additional data. Before we go too far into making it a second call here, we want to see some additional data to help us improve our confidence in that forecast. Right now, our goal is to get you prepared for the potential for icing and power outages, and potentially very hazardous travel conditions. So, again, looking at these model differences and the GFS versus the NAM, I'm showing right now a run from the Thursday night run of the GFS and NAM models. These are United States models. The NAM is generally a little bit higher resolution. It can show us a little bit on a finer scale of the features, and one of the things to note is that the GFS has more snow than the NAM does. The NAM has more of that mix, that, sleet, freezing rain further south into South Carolina, whereas the GFS is going to be a little bit further south with the snow. Both models do indicate a good bit of icing area. So again, there's still a lot of uncertainty on the duration of the winter weather. Again, how far north the warm air can get, how far south the cool wedge can drive. A lot going on. So let's respect that. Let's respect that uncertainty by getting ready. So the first thing, I showed this graphic about winter driving, and I want to emphasize that if you don't have to travel this weekend, please don't. Especially if you have travels going through North Carolina. Anywhere west of I-95 is a good rule. Let's try to refrain from that. If you must go, you're going to want some things in your car: phone charger, batteries, flashlight, first aid kit, food, a candle to melt snow so you can get some drinking water, sack of sand or cat litter for traction, shovel, scraper, and battery booster cables. Just a few things that the Weather Service recommends that you have. And the reason is that if you get stuck on the interstate, it could be hours. That's certainly something that could unfold. So we want people to be ready for this. Again, don't travel if you don't have to. I really emphasize that it looks pretty gnarly. It looks pretty nasty over the next few days. And so again, we are going to emphasize that, travel is not going to be advised starting Saturday through Monday in North Carolina in particular, especially west of I-95. So something to keep in mind there. Again, how far south the winter weather drives is going to be dependent on how far south the surface cold air can drive. And so again, still plenty of time to watch, but we're getting kind of close on this, so we do need people getting ready. So once again, if you're in this winter storm watch, Charlotte, Hickory, Greensboro, Asheville, you need to be getting ready for some potentially disruptive winter weather over the next few days. Another thing to check as you get ready for this storm, make sure you get batteries in your carbon monoxide detectors and your smoke detectors. Heating can sometimes increase the carbon monoxide levels in your home, and you might not know until it's too late, and that can be a very dangerous thing. So please be sure that you've got that ready to go. Fireplaces, gas heaters are all contributors to carbon monoxide, and you don't want that. You don't want carbon monoxide poisoning. It is I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's definitely one of the deadlier risks that you don't think about with a winter storm, but it's certainly something that you have to keep an eye on. So again, getting some food, flashlights, batteries, making sure you're ready for, potentially long duration power outages, especially if the icing kicks up. So certainly something to watch there. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to get away from the winter stuff, and we're going to go to the coast briefly. We're going to talk about coastal flooding. This is going to be a potential impact, especially in the Charleston, South Carolina area, as the low pressure system is going to have a really good, is going to take a really close pass, and winds are going to turn very, very, very strongly onshore for a time, especially Sunday morning. This is what we're looking at right now for the potential of moderate to major coastal flooding. Tide levels potentially as high as 8.2 feet. in the harbor. You know, you get to that point, that's where you start getting concerned about the potential for the battery being overtopped, numerous road closures, numerous issues. Regardless, it does look like some sort of coastal flooding, saltwater flooding is going to be possible. On top of that, again, the potential for heavy rain. The potential for heavy rain at the coast is certainly something that's going to need to be watched, again, with the proximity of that low. Sunday morning, Weather Service is basically painting 100% chance of rain for Sunday morning, and it's going to be cold rain, so you're not going to want to venture out either if you're in the Charleston metro area, especially if you're in those coastal areas. We've had some problems with beach erosion the last few days here, you know, with the recent very high tides, and so we may get another round of that. So again, pretty wide-ranging series of impacts possible across the Carolinas. So we want you to, you know, just be ready for that. You know, finish your preparations. Friday looks like a really good day for much of us in the Carolinas. A good day to finish up those preparations and just be prepared to, you know, hang out inside this weekend. It's just not going to be nice out. One way to help you get prepared is to check out our Winter Storm special tonight at 9 o'clock. We'll have the full panel talking about, you know, everything that you need to know. We'll have our new snow map ready to go. We'll have a new or latest call on that, latest call on freezing rain and sleet, and how this is going to affect you. So again, tune in tonight, 9 o'clock. We're all over the place. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Carolina Weather Group. Look us up. You can also get the audio version across Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio. Plenty of places to get the Carolina Weather Group wherever you may be. So that's going to do it for me. Again, I'm Jared Smith out of Charleston, South Carolina, here for the Carolina Weather Group. Please stay safe, everybody, and we'll talk to you tonight.